I wanted more kissing between the boys. I literally think my life's been changed.
It's time for the 13 Nights of Saraween.
Hey besties, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing another episode of TBR Takeover. The lovely Sydney from Syd BookWorrom has agreed to join us this time. If you haven't seen this series on my channel before, basically what I do is I ask my fellow booktubers to send me a clip of them recommending 3 books. Sydney recently sent over her video, so I want to react to it.
Well, hello Sarah. Thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this series on your channel. I am so excited. It's a little bit surreal for me, not gonna lie. I've been watching you for a really long time. Like watching you before I even knew I wanted to start a booktube channel. So I'm honored, to say the least. I have 3 recommendations for you and I'm really nervous. When I was looking through your Goodreads page, it was really half and half of like us rating books similarly and you rating books that I love really low. But I think that my 3 choices could be good for you. So the very first one I'm pretty confident in actually. So it is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi. I saw that you gave House of Hollow a really high rating and I read this book for my book club and I compared this book to a T to giving House of Hollow vibes mixed with Piranesi or Starless Sea. I know you didn't really like Starless Sea. Ignore that if you want to, but like the House of Hollow vibes are so there. That's the first recommendation. The second one is Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. This one might be a toss-up. It might make you mad, I don't know. This one is like a fantasy mystery thriller set on a magical island and I ate it up. I absolutely loved it. It was a dark horse for me. Last year it was in my top 10 of the year and I didn't expect that. So I really hope that you have a similar experience. I compare this one to A River Enchanted because of the magical island and the vibes of Once and Future Witches, which just like a witchy story. And then I also compared it to In My Dream I Hold a Knife because it has this small town like group family drama aspect that like I couldn't put down. So that's the second recommendation. And the third one, I have like 5. I have like 5 that I could choose, but this one was on your want to read shelf. Granted, you did put it on there in 2019, so I don't know if you still want to read it. But since it is fall time, I wanted to go with one that had sort of eerie atmosphere, right? So this is Wicker King by Kay Ancrum. I don't know if you've read anything by Kay Ancrum yet, but the way that she writes is like really short, to the point, but it has such amazing atmosphere and eeriness and just moody. It's moody and I really loved it. It's also a really quick read, which is phenomenal. So those are my 3 recommendations. I'm gonna stop before I change my mind. So once again, thank you so much for having me. Love you a lot. All right, bye.
I feel like this is such a good TBR for October. Thank you, Sydney, for participating and sending me this clip of you telling me what books to read. Okay, besties, I decided to pick up The Wicker King first because that was the only book that was available at my library. So it kind of made the choice for me. So I am 75% of the way through the audiobook and I don't dislike it. I feel like it's not a very great way to start this. So this book is about these 2 boys, August and Jack, and they have this very toxic friendship. They've been friends since they were kids. August sort of takes care of Jack because he has a lot of like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like he has like some emotional problems and his parents are often not home. He's from like a very wealthy family and his parents are always just like traveling for work and he's just left home alone, which was interesting to me because in my mind I was like, wouldn't someone report this to CPS? Like, I don't know, because they're like underage. This is a YA book. And then August comes from a single mother home and they're a lot less affluent and he takes care of his mom and he takes care of her. He's kind of like the dad of his friend group. He just like takes care of people. He feels very obligated to do this. He and Jack have a very, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like a homoerotic friendship. Like they're not together, but they're like together, if you know what I mean. And so the point that I'm at in the book, obviously I'm very far in, so I don't want to give you any spoilers. Jack's been like going through it. There's like a lot of stuff going on with Jack. He's a little volatile and August is trying to deal with it. But I am really enjoying the dynamics of exploring this kind of toxic, tumultuous friendship. I think the issue that I'm having is that this book is young adult and I am just not really a young adult reader anymore. And so it's kind of limiting me in enjoying it because every time anything happens, I'm just like, this would be better if it was adult. If only these characters were in college or older. Oh my god, if this was a college story, I feel like that would be like even better and just like grittier. Another complaint that I have is that there's way too many side characters in this. It's really hard to keep track of them. One of my personal pet peeves in books is when there's way too many side characters that I can't really keep track of. Like I know who everyone is in this book, but some of them I'm just literally like, why? Like there are these 2 characters that are twins named Peter and Roger, and I don't really understand why they're not just one character. Like I don't really know what Kay Ancrum was trying to do with them. But even though I said some nitpicky things about this, I do want everyone to know, Sydney included, if you're watching this, that I am enjoying it. I just unfortunately am weirdly ageist these days and I don't really love YA. It was on my TBR. It was on my TBR shelf on Goodreads because I heard about this book. I feel like the first person I saw read this was Elias maybe, and that's why I put it on my TBR. I don't really remember why it was there. Okay, so I finished The Wicker King and I think I'm gonna rate it 3 stars. I wanted to say 3.5 or 4 stars before, but I feel like I was just feeling the pressure of a lot of people enjoying this book and liking it. I know that it's very popular and I just wanted to be one of the girlies, but unfortunately I don't think I am. It's not that I disliked it entirely. I really liked the concept and I liked a lot of aspects of it. I just think I wish that it had been aged up. I also just wanted more gay love. I feel like, is that a hard ask? I wanted more kissing between the boys. I just wanted more. I get that it was supposed to be about this like homoerotic friendship that where you don't really like know where they stand, but I just wanted more BL. Sue me. I'm gonna have to stick to what I said earlier, which is that I just think there were way too many characters in this book. I feel like it really watered down the plot, especially because Jack and August were the characters I only really cared about. Like all the side characters were just like so random, and then that random older girl that August dates for a while, I was just like, okay. As far as a first pick from Sydney, I still found it to be an enjoyable read. It was very, very fast. Kay Incrum's writing is very short and punchy and to the point, and so it makes it very readable. And so I flew through this book in mostly one day. So I definitely wouldn't dissuade anyone from reading it. I feel like it totally makes sense why Sydney recommended it to me for October, because it is very moody, it's very dark, it deals with mental health. I'm not mad that I read it, and I definitely look forward to reading more from Kay Incrum. Like if she were ever to write an adult novel, I would jump on that, especially because I know that she mostly writes queer fiction and she has some really interesting concepts. I don't think I will read any more of her young adult, only because I just tend to not like young adult and I don't want to read it and then rate it low again. We'll check in the future and see what she's writing, what she's doing. The minute she has a debut adult novel, I'll be on it. I'll be reading it. It'll be a great time. Okay, besties, I have amazing news. Sydney really ate with this one. I loved this book so much. I finished reading Spells for Forgetting. I liked it so much that I bought myself a copy, and that is high praise coming from me. I read this while I was in the UK. I took a little trip to the United Kingdom recently. I went to Edinburgh and London, and so on my flight there, I needed something to read, so I listened to the audiobook for this. And then later in the week, I had to do some book shopping. I was on the trip with 2 of my friends. There was one day where I broke away from them and went off by myself to go book shopping in London, and I was listening to this while I was book shopping, and it was just such the perfect fall vibe. It's just iconic. If you liked practical magic when you were a child, this is for you. Like practical magic was truly part of my personality when I was young, and this book gave me so many practical magic vibes. So this book is following a couple of different characters in different timelines on this island called Saoirse, and we have 2 main characters. We have Emery and we have August. Many years ago, when Emery and August were teenagers, they were wildly in love, like passionately just loved each other so much, and something happened on the island. There was a fire and someone died, and so August ended up having to leave the island because a lot of people blamed him for what happened. And so now it's been many years, and now they're in their 30s, and they've always just like kept that flame burning for one another. Like the love in this, the romance, I was lived out loving. I loved it so much. There are a lot of memory scenes that go back to really, you know, illustrate why Emery and August were so madly in love when they were teenagers, and I was feeling it. I was vibing, and also just the island of Saoirse itself was just described so mouthwateringly. Like I was truly eating. Like I was eating. Like if you want a book that embodies fall and autumn, like you absolutely need to pick this up. The reason that it reminds me so much of practical magic is because all the women on this island are witches, and so they all practice different forms of magic. And Emery owns a tea shop, and her mother was known for like reading tea leaves and different things, like foreseeing the future. And so now August is back on the island because his mother has passed away, and her last request was that he bury her ashes on the island. So when he gets back, people are not very happy, and also like obviously there's some long lingering feelings between him and Emery. Also, this paperback I got is very floppy. I did not think it was going to be this floppy. I will admit I'm only giving this 4 stars because the murder mystery aspect of this wasn't as strong as the fall vibes and the witchiness and all the other things that I liked about it, and I just kind of was expecting more from the murder mystery. Like I just wanted it to be like a little bit better because I am a thriller girly at heart, and if you really like thrillers, I wouldn't say that this is a thriller by any means. This is definitely more of like a romance. It's just here, it's for vibes. It's for vibes, truly. Like if you're a vibey person, you will enjoy this, but the actual plot of like trying to figure out who killed Lily is, it's fine. It's fine. Like I liked it. Like I would give it like 8 out of 10. For me, the writing is really what shined in this. I just want to say, like, if you're ready to feast, if you're ready to just like sit and bathe in some beautiful prose, I definitely think that you should pick this up. I have seen mixed reviews for this, but I feel like it's just for the girlies who don't get it. Like the girlies who get it will get it, Like, this is definitely going to be going on my favorites of the year. Maybe not in like my top 10, but I definitely will put this like in my honorable mentions. And I cannot wait to read more from Miss Adrienne Young. Besties, I need you to listen to me. I had big plans. Tomorrow I was going to take a shower. I was going to do my hair. I was going to look less ugly. And I was going to tell you what I thought of the Roshni Chokshi book that Sydney had me read. But here's what happened. Here's what happened. I did not know I was going to read it in one sitting. And now I'm just so overwhelmed with emotions. I need you to know everything I feel about this book, because truly one of the best books I've ever read. I've got tears in my eyes by how much I loved this book. I love when I do a TBR takeover and I find one of my all-time favorite books. Like this, I thought Spells for Forgetting was good. No. If you want vibes, if you want a fall feeling, this book has it too. I will say Spells for Forgetting is a little bit more like fall, like crunchy leaves under your feet vibes. I feel like this is more like if you want that fall that feels like a gothic manor, this is it. This is it. Oh, it was so good. It was so good. I just needed you guys to know my raw emotions about this book. I was so shocked by how much I liked this book, because the only Roshni Chokshi book that I've ever read is The Star-Touched Queen, which I think was her debut YA fantasy back in the day, and I really did not like that book. I thought it was very overwhelmed by purple prose, and so I was a little bit nervous going into this. I honestly would have never picked this up if Sydney hadn't told me to read it, only because my experience with The Star-Touched Queen was just that I wasn't really into her writing style. But Miss Chokshi has really honed her skills. It still has like a flowery language to it, but it is very concise and almost like subdued, but like beautiful at the same time. I'm literally in the process of ordering the paperback on Target's website right now because I need it. I need to have it. And I noticed that there is a new paperback coming out, and I really like the paperback cover. That's the one that I have on the screen right now. And so I am very excited to read this. I will say the original hardcover with the girl with the hair is fine. It definitely fits the vibe of the book. If you read it, you definitely would say that it's a fitting cover. I just don't always love people on the cover of books, so I definitely prefer this like key cover. So I am ordering that right now. I'm so excited to own a copy. I'm gonna recommend this book so much to you guys. You're gonna be sick of it. You're gonna be sick of hearing about how you need to read this book. I will say, I always get the title wrong. I always want to call it The Last Flower Bride. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. That's what it's called. So I do need to learn the title of my new favorite book. Anyway, you might hear me gushing and you're like, Sarah, what the fuck is this book even about? Like, you just keep ranting and rambling about how much you love it. You're not really telling me anything about it. And you're right. Okay, let's get into it. So let's set the scene. The book opens in Paris at a bar. And our main character, he's just called the bridegroom, and he talks about how he first met his wife. And so he's sitting at this Paris bar and he's waiting to find her, and you find out that he is a professor of like mythology and fairy tales, and he's waiting to meet with a woman who has a book in her like private collection that he wants to read for his studies. And it's this woman named Indigo, and she is an heiress. She's like super wealthy, and they hit it off immediately. And they instantly fall in love. And it's a very like whimsical, romantical sort of scene. As their marriage progresses, we find out that they really love to role play and pretend that they're characters in myths and fairy tales and different things. And they just sort of have this divide between reality and this make-believe life that they've created for themselves. And the one thing that Indigo makes him promise is that he will never ask her about her past. And it almost becomes like a lore for their relationship, that this is like the one rule that she tells him never to cross. But 3 years into the marriage, we find out that Indigo's aunt that raised her is dying, and so they need to go back to the estate that she grew up on, which is this very like gothic manor that she calls the House of Dreams. And she feels like this house is like a living, breathing entity, and so she brings her husband there. And when he gets there, he finds out that there are some things in Indigo's past that she's been hiding. And so the rest of the book, we're kind of uncovering like what happened in the past. We're introduced into a perspective of back when like Indigo was like growing up, like when she was a child into her like teens. And I can't even decide which perspective I liked more. I feel like the husband's perspective really added this layer of like just like fantasy fairy tale, like the way that his character was like speaking. Also, the audiobook narrator for him was the same audiobook narrator that does Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. So if you like that guy, his voice is so sexy. And then the perspective of like Indigo growing up and like what happened in the past is also really great, because I feel like it still has whimsy, but it's also kind of grounded a little more in reality. I don't know how to describe it. It's still very whimsical. I would definitely say that this book kind of falls under like kind of magical realism. Like, you don't really know what's real, and you're just sort of trying to like piece it together the whole book. And it was so good. It just has that like gothic kind of like foreboding vibe to it. Like I can totally see why Sydney recommended me this for October, because it does have like a spooky, almost haunting quality to it, and the writing is so beautiful. Like I was eating, like no crumbs were left. I know I was saying in my last clip how atmospheric and good Spells for Forgetting was, which it was. It really was. I really enjoyed it, but it really wasn't a 5-star read the way that this one is. Like this one, the entire time I was reading it, I was like, oh, so I'm reading perfection right now. Like this is literally one of the best books I've ever read. All I can say is well done, Sydney. Give yourself a pat on the back, because if anyone has been watching my channel, especially lately, I am a picky fucking bitch. Like I don't like anything, and so for you to have 2 books in this vlog where I basically gave 5 stars, well I didn't give Spells for Forgetting 5 stars, but I did give it like 4.5, to have that and then this book be a perfect like 10 out of 10, 15 million stars, honestly great. I will say, didn't love The Wicker King as much, but I don't always love YA, so that's not really your fault. And I did really enjoy a lot of the vibes of Wicker King. I feel like Wicker King definitely had like a nice kind of like energy to it. I just think that there was things about the writing and the characters and things like that that I would have changed if it was up to me. I mean, it's not up to me, it's up to Kay and Krim, and she likes the book the way it is and everybody's a huge fan of it. So I'm just gonna, you know, write that one off as it wasn't really for me, but I gave it 3 stars, which is definitely not a bad rating. But these other 2 books, Spells for Forgetting and the, oh my god, I keep forgetting the title, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I love how this one is literally my new favorite book and I cannot get the title right. I just always want to say The Last Flower Bride. I just really forget the tail part. Anyway, I'm like rambling because it's literally 5:12 a.m. because I stayed up all night reading this. Okay, but I guess that actually really does bring us to the end of this video. If you enjoyed watching this and you made it to the end, feel free to use the old-timey skeleton looking key in your comments down below. You can also use the regular key if that's the only one you can find. Also, I just want to thank Sydney one more time for participating in TBR Takeover. If you're not currently subscribed to Sydney, please go check her out. I will link her channel down below. She is so awesome. She actually recently just got over like 20,000 subscribers. I think she's at like 22,000 subscribers now, and she definitely deserves more. Her content is amazing and she is just so nice and she's the best. So please check her out, and I thank you all so much for watching. You're all beautiful. Have a nice day.